Hello and welcome to the video. This video is an unboxing and first look at this new thing from OMPHobby. This is their new VTOL. The way it works is that it has a standard kind of twin prop setup when it's in kind of airplane mode, and then it has a prop on the tail and two at the front that swing into position so that it becomes a tricopter essentially. However, it manages yaw by actually moving these front two motors. Now, for those of you that watched a video that I did earlier this week talking about my plans for 2022, I kind of alluded to this. I'm really excited about VTOL. VTOL is one of the things I want to really get to grips with in 2022. Now, a couple of years I've been looking at VTOL stuff, very basic, cheap and cheerful kind of hobby grade toy stuff, as well as some of the really expensive stuff from Ben up at 3DXR, which are thousands of pounds. And it's been really interesting to see that we're starting to see the VTOL technology come down from the bleeding to the leading edge. However, this new model from OMPHobby is definitely not cheap. We're talking $1,000, £1,000 plus for this system. Now I need to give a very big shout out to a gentleman called Steve at Scotia RC up there in Scotland, who emailed me at the end of August actually saying would I be interested in getting one of these to have a go. And it's taken from then till just after Christmas for this to actually arrive. And it appears that OMPHobby have been working very hard to refine this. I've only seen one of the video on it on YouTube. That was from about 4 months ago. That looks like it was an early prototype. Now this one comes with a battery, the DJI HD system installed, has a couple of face plates. It has this one where it's just the DJI HD camera at the front. There's also a separate one that you can use to put your GoPro in here as well. So I thought, let me show you how this comes out. And show you how it goes together, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll get some decent weather soon where I can actually take it out and give it a fly and see how it performs. So with the cardboard taken off this foam case, I've had to put the tripod on the very highest setting to even get a view into it. This thing is huge. And as you open it up, everything is beautifully laid out and very protected, which is good because when you spend this amount of money, you don't want things getting bent. So first thing to notice is the nacelles and the wings. The wings are a little bit unusual. The servos are connected directly to the root of the control surface, and we have the nacelle that has the swivel motor mount as well, which means the front motors are going to be used for fixed wing mode, but also going to swing up for hovering. And we have the little bits of protected foam. So this is going to be a great thing to keep it in when you're not using it and transporting it. So we have the other wing as well. Electric connectors are in the root. What else have we got in here? So then we've got some additional pieces. But we can see here the main body. Now getting the main body out is tricky. I would recommend opening the battery bay, putting the battery bay hatch to the side, then sliding your fingers into the back of the battery bay and lifting it out, because it is quite a snug fit. Now here you can see the main body. So we have the third prop mounted on the carbon fibre boom. We have clips that hold the wings into place. I'll show you how they work in a moment. And then we have the front part here, which is where the battery is going to sit. You have to push that little tag forward, and also the DJI Air unit. On the bottom we have some ducts for cooling, and everything is really nicely made. I wish the foam had some kind of protective covering on it, but you can see here that it's all nice. Now there are two different fronts for this. There's a standard one that doesn't include an opening for a RunCam camera, and there's another one that is the default one which doesn't. Now there is an electrical connector at the bottom. It isn't made automatically. You do have to pull it out to put it into position. That's got the connections for the motor, but also the connections for the servos out there for both the tilt servo for the motor and the control surface. And that little clip really holds it well. It really snaps into place. binding was simple, but be aware that the air unit that's in the front is kind of hidden away a little bit. It doesn't have an SD card fitted as standard, and you're going to have to get in there to press the bind button for your goggles and your radio. Standard stuff if you're used to the DJI air units bits and pieces. However, I undid the 2 screws at the back at the rear to mount it in, and that meant once those 2 screws are done, it can be pulled back slightly, and that gives you easier access to insert an SD card if you want to do that, or also get hold of the bind button. The DJI Air unit that I tried here was on the latest code and was activated as well, so that was one less thing that I had to do. And from a flight controller point of view, no setup is needed at all. It is all ready, and there's very simple instructions in the box. There's only 2 switches on the FPV controller used. One takes it from flying like a wing to flying like a quad, and the other one is used for the return to home. Assembly is super easy to just see. All you need to do is pull out the electrical connector and push that into the wing, and then push the wing home. Surprised that connector isn't captured, so that as you push the wing into place, all the electrical connections are made automatically. That's what I've seen on lots of other models. Talking about the centre of gravity. Now, the battery that comes with it is a big old chunky battery. Be aware though that this is a HV battery, so it needs to be charged to 4.35 volts per cell. Putting the battery in the front without any kind of action camera in the nose, I struggled to get the central gravity where it needed to be. So I ended up putting a couple of 18500 batteries in a case in the nose, just to provide that extra weight. So be aware of that. You'll struggle to get the CG spot on if you're not using a GoPro right up there in the nose. Initial setup and testing so far has been very smooth. There is an on-screen display in the DJI goggles. I've asked OMPHobby if there is a way to move things around. It's not laid out in a way that I would be comfortable with. I have using OSDs in the DJI goggles for quite a long time now, and things aren't always where I expect them to be. I'm expecting that OMPHobby has very deliberately made it so that you can't bugger about with any of the settings and potentially break something. It is a proprietary flight controller in here. It's available at the back, and by undoing one screw you can get in there and have a look. This isn't a Pixhawk Cube or a Holy Bro flight controller. This is something a little bit different, and at a quick glance I can't see a USB connection either. Again, almost certainly designed to make it difficult for people like me to start buggering about with the settings and potentially break something. Now, in normal quad plane, in Ardu Pilot and those other things, there are lots of other flight modes for both the hovering and also for the flying the fixed wing. However, those are set, so there is literally one flight mode for hovering for part of the VTOL and one flight mode for fixed wing. And a little bit sad that the switches on the FPV controller are pre-assigned and set up, because again they're not in the places that I use for all of my other models. The manuals that come with it are pretty good. They're very basic, but then they're just telling you how the switches work and how to fly it. And at the field, all you're going to have to do is calibrate the compass and then wait for a GPS lock, arm using the sticks, ascend to hover over 20 meters or more, then transition to fixed wing and fly around, then fly back to within 50 meters of your launch area, transition back to hover, and then descend and land and disarm with 6, and then you have the other switch for return to home in case of a problem. All sounds very simple. So my initial thoughts on this are this seems to be a well-made VTOL with lots of quality touches and finishes. It's obviously been designed to make sure that pilots like me don't start changing things, and it's been in production for quite a while, so I'm excited to get this out and fly it to see how it handles the transitions and how it behaves both as a multi-rotor hovering in the air and also as a fixed wing. I am excited to get this out to the field and give it a go. I just need the weather to break. I don't want to risk such an expensive model by flying it in really windy weather. There are a number of questions that I've got in my mind. how powerful will the hovering be? Where is it going to hover? How good is it going to be in wind? There aren't any optical flow sensors on this, so it's not going to try and hold its position with anything else apart from good old GPS. I'm also interested to see how smooth the transitions are. I've only ever seen one other video on this thing, and it was an early model about 4 months ago, so I imagine they've been working hard on making that an awful lot easier and a lot less scarier. Also interested to see how the speed will be in fixed wing modes. It talks in the manual about having 2 speeds. What are those like, and how much throttle control will I have? Again, this is an expensive model for serious enthusiasts with money to burn, and I am excited to see how it flies and to learn some lessons from it as I move through this year on my kind of VTOL journey to ultimately build one of my own. Stay tuned, and hopefully we'll be able to get this thing in the air soon and actually see how it performs. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organized into easy to follow playlists that, if you're trying to learn a topic, will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.